Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 2021 KERIS Symposium Global Networking Week will begin 2 p.m. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us today with Metaverse and YouTube. 2021 KERIS Symposium Global Networking Week will begin for 3 days from November 24th to 26th. It starts at 2 p.m. every day in Korean Standard Time. We will start by inviting 3 speakers from partner countries' governments. Afterward, I'd like to invite everyone to participate on gallery tour. Please stay with us till the end of the session. We have game for you and we also have prize for you. Also, there are 3 galleries will be operated for 3 days. Each gallery is prepared by partner organization and governments of KERIS. After the gallery tour, we are having an event session. Is there anyone who joining us in this platform? Please check the KERIS YouTube for access guideline. Please be informed that the Metaverse space, you can be controlled by the host for your sitting function and audio. In the Metaverse space, you don't need to wear a mask or don't need to check your temperature. So feel free to move around and talk with others. After this announcement, 3D audio system will be applied. The volume of talking voice will be louder and quieter depending on the distance. It sounds louder when you are closer to the person who speaks. So from now on, please feel free to talk with others until 2 p.m.
School project is an effort to support societies and their communities in a new but feasible way. It is a fruit of mutual understanding between Korea and Africa, believing that ICT institutions
ideas through networks, conduct research about learning science and technology, and share stories that inspire action. Using the challenge-based learning framework, students and educators identify big ideas, ask questions, and take action on issues that matter to them. Along the way, educators and students...
뭐 따로 작업할 거는 없다고 하더라고. 자기 생각처럼 빨리 움직이면 더 생각이다. 조금 쳤다 싶을 정도로 천천히 움직이면 좋아요. 그러니까 제가
Ladies and gentlemen, 2021 KERIS Symposium Global Networking Week begin in 10 minutes. Welcome everyone joining us with the Metaverse and YouTube. 2021 KERIS Symposium Global Networking Week will begin at 2 p.m. and it will be held for 3 days from November 24th to 26th, and it starts at 2 p.m. every day in Korean Standard Time. We will start by inviting 3 speakers from partner countries' governments. Afterwards, I'd like to invite everyone to participate in gallery tour. Please stay with us till the end of the session. We have some special game for you, so please stay with us. Also, there are 3 galleries will be operated for 3 days. Each gallery is prepared by the partner organization and governments of KERIS. After the gallery tour, we're having an event session. And for those who wanted to join us this platform, please check the KERIS YouTube for access guideline. Please be informed that in Metaverse space, the host might control your setting function and audio. In Metaverse space, you don't need to wear a mask or there is no need for a temperature check. Feel free to move around and talk with each other. After this announcement, 3D audio system will be applied. The volume of talking voice will be louder or quieter depending on the distance. It means it sounds louder when you're closer to the person who speaks. So we are going to begin the session at 2 p.m. Feel free to talk each other. May I have your attention, please? 2021 KERIS Symposium Global Networking Week will begin shortly. Welcome everyone joining us with Metaverse and YouTube. 2021 KERIS Symposium Global Networking Week will be held for 3 days till 26. It starts at 2 p.m. every day in Korean Standard Time. Today, we will begin by inviting 3 speakers from partner countries' governments. After having lectures, I'd like to invite everyone to participate in gallery tour. So please stay with us till the end of the session. We have interesting game for you that everyone can join, and also for the first winner, you can get a prize. Also, there are 3 galleries will be operated for 3 days. Each galleries is prepared by the partner organization and governments of KERIS. And for those who wanted to join us this platform, please check KERIS YouTube for access guidelines. And please be informed that in Metaverse space, you can be controlled by the host for your setting function and audio microphone. In here, Metaverse space, you don't need to wear a mask or there is no need to for a temperature check. Feel free to move around and talk with each other. After this announcement, 3D audio system will be applied. The volume of talking voice will be louder or quieter as distance. It sounds louder when you're closer to the person who speaks. So we begin the symposium in 3 minutes. So before that, please feel free to talk each other. Thank you. Everyone, 2021 KERIS Symposium Global Networking Week will begin shortly. So all participants joining us Metaverse and YouTube, please have your seat. Hello everyone, let us begin 2021 KERIS Symposium Global Networking Week under the theme of Global Companion to Our Future. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone joining Metaverse and YouTube. Hopefully, it will be a place for you to share the ideas and information from partner countries' organizations. Firstly, Mr. Yeshe Landa from Ministry of Education of Bhutan will present about ICT in education, Bhutan's journey, and Asia League 2. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
Hello, this is Ankala and greetings from Bhutan. I am Michel Lundup, looking after the education technology in Department of School Education in Ministry of Education Bhutan, and I'm honored to be part of this symposium on ICT in education, and I'll be taking all the esteemed participants through the Bhutan's journey in ICT in education, the iSharik. The presentation will be covering the ICT in Bhutanese education system, the history, the first education ICT master plan, iSharik 1, followed by iSharik 2, and some of the challenges that we face while we go along with the ICT in education programs and plans. The ICT in Bhutanese education system. Before 2000, in 1990s, Bhutanese school remained outside the domain of ICT, although the school played an ideal agent in encouraging and promoting this important global technology. However, the computer science has been offered as an optional subject in grade 9 and 10 on few high schools. Realizing the important role that school plays in developing future manpower with technological competencies, the government of Bhutan then prioritized the need to introduce ICT in school education. And as part of the initiative, the government initiated bringing computer to school project. As part of the project, computer application was introduced as an optional subject in all the high schools for grade 9 and 10, followed by computer science for grade 11 and 12. Between 2000 to 2008, numerous attempts were made to integrate ICT in teaching learning process through many smaller projects. However, most of the projects couldn't be upscaled due to lack of resources and other support infrastructures like internet connectivity. In 2009, with the support from the Government of India, the Chief and Repair project was initiated. The project established computer labs in 168 schools, introduced ICT literacy curriculum from grade 7 to 12, trained more than 5,000 teachers on basic computer skills such as operation of computers and use of Microsoft Office packages. The Chiffon Recruit project ended in 2015. However, prior to the completion of the project, realizing the need to rationalize and strategize the ICT in education projects and also harness the power of ICT, the Ministry of Education then ventured into development of 5-year ICT in education master planning process. We are now into the implementation of Master Plan 2. iSharik 1 envisioned to enhance quality of education by ICT for a knowledge society through 3 strategic thrusts, which we call it as iAble, iBuilt, and iConnect. In short, IABC. iAble focuses on building the capacity of the students, educators, support staff, and the industry. The iBuilt focuses on integration of ICT into curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. And the iConnect focuses on enhancing the ICT infrastructure, including both hard and soft component. These strategic thrusts are further broken down into programs and projects. Some of the achievements of iSharik 1 were in iAble, the colleges of education introduced ICT as a teaching tool. The school ICT laboratory assistants were trained on maintenance of school ICT infrastructure to ensure the sustainability of the ICT programs. As part of the iAble project, The ministry also initiated to review the children repeal ICT curriculum, and a revised curriculum was introduced from grade 4. Since Master Plan 1 also included the Royal University of Bhutan component, the colleges under Royal University of Bhutan introduced virtual learning environment. In iConnect, Ministry continued to support schools with computerization program, internet connectivity, and towards the end of iSharing 1, the organization email was given to all the schools, teachers, and support staff. The achievement of iSharing 1 is not so significant as compared to the targets planned. So, the ministry during the review of iSharing 1 felt the need to focus on almost all the areas of iSharing 1 in iSharing 2. Hence, you'll find iSharing 1 and iSharing 2 are almost similar. However, the Master Plan 2 focuses on school education system and its relevant agencies like College of Education, but we did consider the need to include the non-formal sector too. With the midway through the iSharing 2 implementation, we would claim that we are now on track, which I'll share along with the details of iSharing 2. The thrust 1, iAble, as in iSharing 1, focuses on enhancing the ICT competencies of educator, learners, and support staff. Under this thrust, we have 3 programs and 9 projects. They are: the first one, the ICT capacity development for educators. Under this, we developed the ICT competency standard for teachers, which is aligned to Bhutan Professional Standard for Teacher. The second project focuses on the use of digital pedagogy in College of Education. This project is for both the faculties of College of Education and the pre-service teacher training. As of now, the College of Education reviewed the modules and it's being introduced in the colleges. The third project focuses on the digital pedagogy for in-service teachers. The ministry developed a training package which is in line to ICT competency standard for teachers. The training will be provided to the teachers very soon. The second program focuses on ICT capacity development of the learners, the ICT competencies of the students, and the digital citizenship for the students were incorporated as part of ICT curriculum, and as of now, the ICT curriculum is being implemented across the levels and in all the schools. As the grade level increases, the content of the ICT curriculum focuses more on the coding. The third program focuses on the Tibet-based ICT competencies of the student. Currently, 2 schools are being identified for this program. One of the school will focus on hardware and the networking. Other will be focused on designing skills such as Aerobic products. In this fast-changing digital world, it is also important, even for those who missed the formal education system, to be equipped with skills, knowledge, and competencies to navigate and find a place in digital world. So, the program has been also planned for the non-formal sector too, through the non-formal education program. The third program under this project focuses on ICT capacity development for learning support. It is important for education leaders to understand the role of ICT in education. Unless they are convinced, the investment in ICT will be waste. Hence, we will be conducting several rounds of orientations on the role of ICT in education and emerging technologies, including support staff who plays a crucial role in supporting teachers in troubleshooting the issues related to ICT. The second thrust I built focuses on the use of ICT integrated teaching learning resources by the educators and the learners. Under this, we have one program and 4 projects. The first project focuses on the development of interactive digital textbooks. The ministry did try out development of the digital textbook and piloted. The students enjoyed learning through digital textbooks. But the project is on the hold as we are waiting for the completion of e-learning platform, and also due to lack of expertise in the development of the digital textbook. We also have a provision to adapt a content for the children with special needs. However, we couldn't start this particular project as we are yet to understand their needs and the requirements. One of the projects under this is the development and the curation of digital resources for schools and non-formal programs. We have initiated development of e-content in response to pandemic and the curated digital educational resources were made available to the teachers and students as part of the curriculum. The iConnect focuses on the strengthening school ICT infrastructure and connectivity for better learning and educational services. Under this, we have 2 programs. The ICT infrastructure development, which focuses on equipping the schools with digital devices and connecting schools. As part of this project, we have completed supply of digital devices to the schools. As of now, the computer student ratio stands at 1:12, and our schools will be connected to high-speed optic fiber internet connectivity by February 2022. And to support high build, ministry is also looking into development of multimedia studio. The studio has been developed and we are looking into strengthening the multimedia studio with additional human resources. On the software component, Ministry of Education has completed development of e-learning platform and the education management information system, and these 2 systems will be implemented from the next academic session, that is from February 2022. This is iShare 2 and the status of its implementation. Coming to the challenges, being a small and a developing nation and the location and geographical landscape of the country, we are challenged with the resources as the investment in ICT is an expensive business. Since ICT in education to Bhutan is quite new, we are also challenged by expertise in the field of ICT in education. With this, I end my presentation on the ICT in Bhutanese education system. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank KERIS, the Ministry of Education, the Republic of Korea, for your generous support in strengthening ICT in education in Bhutan. Currently, the Ministry of Education in Bhutan is working with KERIS on the development of digital textbooks, which will be of immense help to Bhutan in digitizing curriculum and education, along with the development of our own capacity in developing digital textbook. Further, I would also like to thank KERIS for considering Bhutan for the innovative ICT integrated classroom project, which is now taken over by Institute of APEC Collaborative Education, IS. KERIS helped in conducting the feasibility study prior to the handing over to IS. The project is now at the final stage and we are working on how we can bring in the experts from IS to Bhutan to finally execute the project. Lastly, I would like to once again thank the organizer for giving us this opportunity, and we look forward to working with KERIS and any other agency for greater cause through ICT in education. Kadinchella. 감사합니다.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. In the lecture, we could know how ICT education system in Bhutan has been completed, developed. Thank you very much. And this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Abubakar Buye, Director of Ministry of Education from Uganda, for the lecture. He will present with the theme of cases of improving the learning environment in Africa through public-private cooperation. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Day Abubakar from the Republic of Uganda, a Principal Education Officer, the man in charge of technology in the secondary subsector, the technology expert, and I'm happy to have joined this 2021 KERIS Symposium, looking at cases of improving learning environments in Africa through public cooperation. My presentation has got the following outline. It has the background, the learning environments, public-private cooperation, the current state of affairs, what needs to be done, and the recommendations, and possibly question and answers that will be answered later or basically online. The education sector has faced a number of challenges during this period of the pandemic. Many countries have had their school systems closed, and others are still closed due to the effects of COVID and after effects of COVID. The world needs to rethink about learning environments in order to attract children back to school and making learning easier and more interesting. Most African countries have adopted e-learning as a new model, but they have the mechanism to succeed without partners. They have means of doing this without other people. The use of ICT in the current circumstances is inevitable, but the African countries and schools have the means and resources to create better learning environments as required. I think they do not have that. It is important that they partner with other people to make sure there's some good cooperation. Learning environments are spaces where learners and teachers, stock facilitators interact in order to relate to have meaningful outputs. But these vary from country to country, school to school, classroom to classroom, context to context. For example, even in a given country like Uganda, the learning environments vary from school to school. And even in Korea, they also vary. We have the first world schools, and of course the third world schools. With the above in mind, schooling learning environments have to change. School infrastructure needs to be improved. What we mean by this is that ICT is a core, it has to be inclusive. The teachers will need to be retrained. Students will need to be empowered. The people dealing with examinations or assessors need to understand the situation and simply do not assess according to what they want. African governments cannot do this alone. And most of these other countries cannot do it alone. There's a need to engage a number of stakeholders to help in achieving the changes needed to improve the learning environments. Learning environments are not really easy, but it requires a collective effort to have them better. The public-private cooperation, of course, entails government entities and ministries working together with other actors or private actors in improving or achieving improvements in school systems to make them better or to make them better learning environments. In Africa, we have a number of actors, and some of the key actors that are helping out in improving learning environments are the World Bank, the African Development Bank, NGOs, telecommunication companies, other country agencies like the KERIS that is coming from Korea, community leaders, local banks, local partners, and of course the community in general. And all of them are geared to have a better learning environment. The concept of public-private cooperation is a way to go for Africa or African nations to change the education landscape. To give an example, the KERIS environment in Uganda has helped learners learn even during this pandemic. We have ICT labs placed in Nsangi and Makai, and all the learners and teachers have been able to use those facilities to be able to learn during this pandemic. The current state of affairs shows that students have lost time. Learning has become impossible. Learners at home. Most countries have fewer learners learning, maybe using a few individuals that have access to e-learning platforms. And some of them, of course, as originally are in school by virtue of the fact maybe they're international school. A big number of learners are struggling, and teachers and other people are using e-learning and online learning as a way to go. There's a lot of gambling, online lessons. Most of them are struggling to even buy data, buy devices, and even prepare the desired lessons. They don't have the technical know-how to do that, but they must be helped. But who's going to help them? It has to be a combination of public and private actors. Most countries have resorted to blended learning with both online and offline tools. The question is this sustainable? Can we really have it sustainable if we do not have the partnership? I think the best way is to have the partnership. The current state of affairs requires a lot of interventions. We cannot be carried out by one party. It cannot only be the public sector, or it cannot only be the private sector. The public sector and the private sector need to work together to change the learning environments. I'll give an example. In Uganda, we may need to work more with KERIS as a private entity to help us in improving the learning environments. What needs to be done? The public and private sector need to work together. We need to have stronger bonds. We need to do better than we have been doing. In the current situation, we need to have better school infrastructure, both physical and virtual. There's a need to construct more classrooms. There's a need to build ICT labs. There's a need to use the KERIS model in using ICT labs, not necessarily by building physical structures, but using maybe those containers, ICT solar-powered labs. There's a need to have telecom companies reducing the cost of data. There's a need to reform the curriculum. There's a need to enact bylaws to have these students back in school. And there's a need to open up spaces to allow funders to come into the school system and give learners new skills. This is really important. I would say using ICT, these skills can be given quickly and faster. There's a need for partners to help out in support services. Schools are grappling with the issues of having ICT labs, ICT or computers. Private partners must come in to provide these computers. Others can come in to lower the cost of data and also improve the quality of internet. There's a need for professional people to go into the school systems and provide support services in terms of maintenance of computers and make these computers better and make them usable. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then this may not be sustainable. There's also a need for the private and public sectors to cooperate in policy formulation and reforms with a view of looking at the learning spaces as a new way to go. The learning spaces are not the normal structured four-room structure of a classroom, but the virtual. It can be at home, it can be anywhere. So the private and public sector must rethink what kind of classroom we should have. There is a future that requires rethinking the kind of classroom. It can be blended, it can be home and in school, it can be online, it can be a combination. We need to rethink. That needs to be done, but that can only be done by both the private and public sector. Recommendations. I think the key recommendations is that we need to have the public and private sectors strengthening their cooperation. The way they do. We also need to refocus on the ICT-based learning environment. We need to shift. Instead of constructing more buildings, we may need to have more ICT infrastructure that will help out to do that. In African countries, ICT-based learning is minimal, but this is the time to reconstruct that. There's a need to be transparent and be honest for parties to have public-private cooperation. If you're working with KERIS as Uganda, then Uganda and KERIS must be honest and transparent. So the two parties work with honesty and transparency to have it work. There's a need for government agencies to pick the right partners. Which partner do you pick to help you out in solving your ICT infrastructure? That partner might be KERIS. If KERIS is the right partner, then you have to deal with that. There's also a need to not to have interference by politicians in this partnership. Otherwise, it becomes a political agenda rather than something that is solving a problem. One of the key things that we should note that ICT is a core component. Our real focus or our new way of looking at things should be how best we best manage ICT using the private-public cooperation. So it's important that all of us will focus. KERIS has done a lot in this country, Uganda, but we need to see more. We need to see more ICT solar labs. We need to see a lot of training for teachers, because this is the time the teachers need to be retrained so that they have the skills and the knowledge to be able to deliver whatever is required. So in this case, I think we need to improve the stronger bonds of private-public cooperation. And on that note, I'd like to thank the KERIS and all the partners who have given me an opportunity to present at this year's symposium. We think we need to rethink how our learners will be in the future, and this is our duty as public and private actors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the lecture. It is a great time to learn the importance of public-private cooperation for the future education. Thank you very much. Lastly, there will be a lecture presented by Ms. Fatima Rodriguez Erazo, Head of Digital Transformation of Ministry of Education from El Salvador, about transferring Korean technology in cases of building El Salvador EMIS. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Hello, my name is Fatima Rodriguez. I was the one in charge of the Education Management Information System establishment in El Salvador for the last 5 years. I worked in the Ministry of Education for 12 years, and now I'm very pleased to be the one sharing with you about this experience that we have in El Salvador and how was our relationship with Korea. Let me tell you first that the Education Management Information System in El Salvador is called SIGES. I will refer to that for an easy name. So SIGES is an information system in El Salvador which works in all schools. It started to be working on 2018, and it includes a lot of information related to school administration. Even so, that I say that it started to work in 2018, let me tell you that this was a history of more than 20 years to build this system. So I will share with you how was this history. I identified 4 phases on this education information system establishment. The first phase I call it initial phase. It was from 2000 to 2006. At that moment, Ministry of Education started working with local systems. It included a local database. At that moment, we didn't have a very high internet connection. So the main idea of Minet in that year was to build a system that is going to be installed on a computer in each school. But that, as you can imagine, didn't work so well. The second phase, I call it early phase. It was from 2007 to 2010. At that moment, internet was a lot better in El Salvador. So, Ministry of Education built the first EMIS web-based. But the focal point for that system was only high school. That means that we got information only from a student from high school, which is not really the main portion of students in El Salvador. Because of that, we got to the middle phase. From 2010 from 2015, the previous system was still working and it had a lot of problems. So Ministry of Education tried to build an integrated system. During those years, we planned and designed what we call SAI, which is from the Spanish for School Administration System. That system was planned and designed thinking about the previous two systems. And because it was a very interesting idea, we got some funds from USA government. Because of that, finally, we got to the building phase, which was from 2017 to 2020. Through the Millennium Challenge Corporation, El Salvador has enough money to build a new system, a new version from the site that was called CIGES. And we started to build it from scratch. We made it web-based, and we included all the education points and students. So, thinking about that, what is CIGES? Well, it is an information system focused on the school administration. That means that we didn't include a learning platform in CIGES. That is one of the weak points from CIGES. But for El Salvador, it was a very big step on education information. Before CIGES, we didn't have enough information. We didn't have online information about the students or schools. So CIGES include information related to students, schools, teachers, all the information related to personal and professional information from teachers, also some school personnel, which is not teachers. Let me see, for example, the people who is making the food, security people, the principal, secretary, etc. We also include information about building, classrooms, also the furniture, appliance, computers, vehicles, etc. And the budget that the government of El Salvador assigned to public schools. We also include the possibility to have educational statistics and a very early dropout warning system. We will talk about that later. We also include information related to the parents and the family from the students. We have some web portal for public access data and for geographic information. In that sense, now CIGES has more than 250,000 users. Almost 200,000 of them are parents, which they access to CIGES through a mobile app. It includes all the students from all levels until high school. It includes all schools, public and private, and not formal locations. What does it mean? Well, think about the alphabetization process for adult education, and also some methodology that Ministry of Education of El Salvador has related to flexible education. It is used by administrative employees of MINED to make decisions about the resource assignment and many things in Ministry of Education. It was of very big help during the school closure due to COVID-19. As you can imagine, in 2020, because we had to go online, one of the main questions that the ministry has was, how many students do we have right now? How many teachers? Who has access to computer? Who doesn't have access to computer, etc. Well, I talked to you about this history. Let me now explain a little about the Korean influence on CIGES. Current EMIS of El Salvador was designed with a composition of previous systems from El Salvador, taking the best ideas and learning from mistakes. We studied cases from Korea, Uruguay, Mexico, and Honduras. But Korean system, NICE, was a big influence on our system. We learned a lot about the NICE, and we tried to make our own NICE. Of course, it's not the same. Of course, Korea's NICE is much bigger and much better than us, but we gave the first steps thinking about that. Korean influence was present through several sharing programs for several years. Let me share with you how was our experience with Korean people. We have a Korean expert in El Salvador from 2012 to 2015. If you remember from my previous slide, that was the middle stage. So during that time, he helped us about the project planning. He helped us about the ICT diagnosis in Minen, and he helped us about redesign of the system. It was of a very big help for us. We also participated on the ICT volunteers. We have 8 young Koreans in El Salvador teaching ICT to people from the schools. One of the big help from this is that we can learn from them about NICE, not from the point of view of an expert, of an ICT expert, or from a person from the government of Korea, but from the point of view of a student, because they were young, so they were recently students, and they knew about the NICE. We also had another expert from 2018 to 2020. This program was interrupted by COVID-19, but during that time, he teaches us about the soft skills like planning, communication, and change management, which was very important during the building phase. In 2021, we have another program related to Korea, and I will talk about that a little more. During the year of 2020, Minet requested IDB to help us for future steps regarding CIGES. In 2020, we already have the CIGES working on all the schools. We wanted to learn about how we were doing, how was their data, and what can we do on the next steps. So IDB asked Korea to help El Salvador through a consulting project. In 2021, the project started with the name of Transforming Education Systems Through Technology in El Salvador. It included 4 components. One of them was related to the dashboard construction software for education policy decision making. We already have enough data, so we need now to think about a proper dashboard. The second component was related to support for establishing dropout early warning system. CIGES already has a dropout early warning system, but we need a big help to know about experience from other country and how can we improve our dropout early warning system. The third component was related to learning platform construction software. As I was telling you before, CIGES didn't include a learning platform. So this was a very important component for us to think about how are we going to proceed, what are the alternatives for us to include a learning platform in CIGES. And the fourth component was related to training for policy practitioners in Minen. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, project was developed and completed online following this strategy. Video conference, local consultants were hired for on-site surveys, data analysis from Korean experts, and the development of prototype models. Ministry of Education employees were trained online because we couldn't have the regular on-site training. But this was actually very good because if we were going to travel to Korea, maybe we will include only 5 or 10 people from Minen. But because it was online, we could include 30 people. And finally, we got some suggestions for next steps. So the project tools can be summarized as this. For the dashboard, Korean people helped us preparing a prototype dashboard. And they made many suggested measures for the operational education statistics and data quality enhancement, suggesting additional and new items for the data warehouse that we already have. For the dropout early warning system, they gave us some opinion from very important researchers related to the data quality in respect of missing value that we have. They analyzed some characteristics from the student in 2020, and they indirectly evaluated our algorithm for dropout in identification. And finally, for the learning platform, they gave us some evaluation results for alternative for El Salvador. They propose some first course of action, and they suggest future actions. So with all this, we are now thinking about the future steps for CIGES, and Minet will evaluate what is going to be doing during the next year. What I think is that EMI's construction was the first step. The second step is the implementation. We are still in there. And now we think about other things that I mentioned here in this slide. The data quality enhancement is now a big issue that we have to overcome. But data quality is not related to technology. It's more related to process and how can we get all the teachers to introduce quality information. Also, we need to think about dashboard construction to provide information not only to the people from Minet, but also to the public, to all citizens, parents, teachers also, and principals. We also have to work about the dropout early warning system to make some improvements in there. Because now we have lots and lots of information, lots and lots of data related to students, teachers, and school. Now we have to work about knowledge discovery. This requires many technical skills that we don't have, but we will try to make some effort and ask help from other countries and other organizations to work about knowledge discovery. And we also need to work about the learning platform establishment. As you may know, COVID-19 made a learning platform very important for students and for teachers. During 2020, Ministry of Education of El Salvador used Google Classroom. But this is not exactly a learning platform. So we need to give a next step to go through a learning platform that can help teachers and students to improve their experience with online training. So we will continue needing expert advisory and technical help from advanced countries as Korea. About the conclusion, let me share some ideas that I learned from all this experience with EMIS. I think that one of the most important things is the change of mind. In many countries, like in El Salvador, Latin America, and maybe other third world countries, the main problem is that we think about the cycling construction and destruction cycling. Each government will think that the previous one didn't make so well, and sometimes it will only discard what was did by the previous one. So that was a problem for many years. As I was mentioning at first, on the early phase, we could build a new system. On the next government, it was built another system, discarding all the experience from the previous one. So we have to change our mind and think about iterative and incremental constructions. I really like how Koreans believe that the history from them, from how they present the history about how they came from the maybe a stage 0 to now very advanced education management information system. And each step they consider as from their own. It's not from government 1 or from government 2, it's from them. So, and they will continue to iterate and upgrade this system each time. So we have to change and think about that. Another conclusion from my experience is that learning from others' success is important, but not as important as learning from their mistakes. So we can avoid their mistakes. EMI's construction in El Salvador took time, money, and a lot of effort, and I will say many sacrifices. But its benefits overcome easily its cost, and it brings the possibility to take a good decision to improve education in citizen futures, which is finally one of the main goals of education. Korea experience is not a receipt, but their experience on EMIS continues to be an enlightened base of knowledge that can help other countries to improve faster and accurately to their reality. Each country has their own reality. Each country is very particular. We cannot think that what was successful in one country will be successful in another country. But we can learn from them, and we can learn from their mistakes and from their success. That is why I really hope that we will continue to share knowledge with Korea, and we will continue to learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully, El Salvador improve its education system with help of other countries. Thank you. And thank you for all the speakers for the presentation. This is what we have for this session, and I appreciate every participant for being with us. And from 3 p.m., we have gallery tour, so please stay tuned. 네, 여러분 현재 시간이 2시 49분입니다. 잠시 후 10분 뒤부터 국제기구 전시 갤러리, 교류 협력국 트랙 갤러리, 유관기관 갤러리까지 다양한 메타버스 전시 갤러리 투어가 진행이 됩니다. 자리 이동하지 마시고요. 착석 부탁드리겠습니다. 네, 갤러리 투어 이후에는 게임을 통해서 상품을 받을 수 있는 이벤트까지 준비되어 있으니까요. 저희와 끝까지 함께해 주시고요. 시청하고 계시는 분들 중에서 참여를 원하시는 분들은 유튜브 링크 댓글을 통해서 사전 신청서를 작성하시고 메타버스에 입장을 해 주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 올해 2022 케리스 심포지엄 글로벌 네트워킹 위크는 인게이지 플랫폼을 활용한 메타버스 가상현실, 실시간 유튜브 방송, 줌, 오프라인 공간까지 온오프라이드 하이브리드 형식으로 진행이 되고 있습니다. 이번 행사는 23일부터 26일, 내일까지죠. 4일간 개최되고 있고요. 오늘은 글로벌 네트워킹 위크와 함께 여러분과 함께하는 도스튼 투어가 예정이 돼 있습니다. 앞서도 말씀드렸지만 갤러리 투어 이후에 마지막에는 재미있는 게임과 함께 여러분들께 제공되는 푸짐한 상품도 많이 준비가 돼 있으니까요. 자리 이동하지 마시고요. 네, 끝까지 함께해 주시기 바랍니다. 일단 사전 접수를 해 주셔야지 접속하신 참가자를 파악해서 저희가 상품을 드릴 수 있으니까요. 사전 등록 꼭 부탁드리고요. 유튜브 댓글을 통해서 저희가 링크를 남겨드렸습니다. 사전 신청서 작성을 하시고 메타버스에 입장해 주시면 되겠습니다. 잠시 후 3시부터 시작됩니다. 자리 이동하지 마시고요. 네, 착석하셔서 잠시만 기다려 주시면 곧 시작하겠습니다. 네, 여러분 2분 남았습니다. 잠시 후 3시부터 국제기구 전시갤러리, 교류협력국 트랙갤러리, 유관기관 갤러리까지 다양한 메타버스 전시갤러리 투어가 이어집니다. 착석 부탁드리겠고요. 갤러리 이후 이제 마지막 순서로 상품을 받을 수 있는 게임, 이벤트 순서가 마련이 돼 있으니까요. 끝까지 함께해 주시기 바랍니다. 현재 메타버스 공간에도 많은 분들 함께해 주셨는데 유튜브로 함께 하시는 분들 중에서 나도 참여를 하고 싶다 하시는 분들은 유튜브 링크로 저희가 남겨드렸습니다. 그 댓글 확인하셔서 사전 신청서 작성을 하시고 메타버스 공간으로 입장을 해주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 지금 서 계시는 분들 앞쪽으로 나와 있으신 분들 있으신데 네, 계단 올라가셔서 네, 착석 부탁드릴게요. 네, 올해 2021 케리스 심포지엄 글로벌 네트워킹 위크는 인게이지 플랫폼을 활용한 메타버스 가상현실, 또 실시간 유튜브 방송, 줌, 오프라인 공간까지 온 오프라인 하이브리드 형식으로 진행이 되고 있고요. 이번 행사는 23일부터 26일까지 4일간 개최가 됩니다. 오늘은 글로벌 네트워킹 위크와 함께 여러분 모두 함께하는 도스트 투어 예정이 되어 있고요. 또 내일은 강연 프로그램 준비가 되어 있습니다. 프로그램 좀 알고 싶다 하시는 분들은 유튜브 더보기란을 참고하셔서 자세한 내용 확인하시면 되겠습니다. 지금 한 분이 계단 쪽에 앉아 계세요. 저희 준비된 자리로 네, 이동을 하셔서 착석을 해주시면 되겠습니다. 앞쪽에도 자리가 많이 비었으니까요. 네, 천천히 이동하셔서 착석하시면 되겠습니다. 도슨트 투어 마지막 순서로 재미있는 게임과 또 여러분께 드릴 수 있는 상품 준비가 되어 있습니다. 끝까지 자리해 주시고요. 또 이 메타버스 공간에서는 호스트에 의해서 착석과 또 오디오 조정이 될 수 있다는 점 안내를 드리겠습니다. 네, 한 칸 더 올라가세요. DW 킴님 한 칸 더 올라가셔서 착석을 해주시고 우리 미나님도 네, 올라가셔서 착석해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 곧 시작하겠습니다. 네, 여러분 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 저 잘 보이시나요? 네, 이렇게 저를 닮은 아주 예쁜 아바타를 또 준비를 해주셨는데 네, 코로나19로 많은 분들을 직접 뵙지 못하게 됐는데 이렇게 또 메타버스 공간을 통해서 많은 분들 마스크를 착용하지 않고 뵙게 돼서 너무 반갑습니다. 조금만 줌을 해주시면 제가 객석대를 볼 수 있거든요. 네, 또 저를 이렇게 박수를 쳐주시면서 윤지선님이신가요? 네, 저를 활용해 주셨는데 고맙습니다. 네, 코로나19가 전 세계적으로 장기화되면서 우리가 당연하게 누렸던 일상들에도 큰 변화를 겪고 있죠. K방역과 백신 접종으로 이제 위드 코로나가 시작이 됐는데 이렇게 가상 공간과 메타버스에서 여러분들을 뵐 수 있어서 너무 기분이 좋습니다. 네, 이제 거의 입장 완료하신 것 같고요. 오늘은 저와 함께 2021 케리스 심포지엄 및 글로벌 네트워킹 위크 도슨트 투어 떠나보겠습니다. 이렇게 메타버스에서 전시장 투어를 하는 건 저도 처음이라서 참 긴장이 되는데 코로나 이후에 이렇게 디지털 전환이 참 빠르다는 거를 느낄 수 있습니다. 정말 근데 생생하게 전시장 느낌이 그대로 나고요. 실제로 여러분들 이렇게 마스크 끼지 않고 뵙게 되니까 너무 반갑네요. 네, 저와 함께 도슨트 투어 시작하기 전에 안내를 드리겠습니다. 이 공간을 이동하면서 투어를 하실 텐데요. 여러분들은 그냥 서 계시기만 하면 되고요. 이 공간은 시스템에서 자동으로 이동이 되니까요. 공간 이동이 완료된 이후에 움직여 주시면 되겠습니다. 그리고 인터넷 환경이나 계신 곳의 환경에 따라서 공간을 이동하다가 프로그램이 꺼질 수도 있어요. 그럴 때는 당황하지 마시고 유튜브로 도슨트 투어 함께 해주시면 되고요. 저희 공간이 2개가 있습니다. 전체 홀과 지금 여러분이 함께 하시는 곳은 라이브 스테이지 A거든요. 이 라이브 스테이지 A로 다시 접속하셔서 저희와 함께 투어 하시면 되겠습니다. 그리고 케리스 공식 유튜브 채널에서 도슨트 투어 생중계되고 있으니까요. 끝까지 함께 해주시고요. 한 번 더 말씀드릴게요. 유튜브로 함께 하시는 분들은 댓글을 통해서 사전 신청서 작성을 하시고 이건 메타버스에서 함께 해주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 이제 많은 분들 함께 해주셨고 어느 정도 준비가 된 것 같은데요. 함께 떠나보겠습니다. 네, 그럼 공간 이동하시죠. 네, 공간을 이동했습니다. 많은 분들 저를 따라와 주셨는데요. 제가 오늘 전시장 투어 가이드를 해드리겠습니다. 와, 엑스포장 정말 실제랑 똑같네요. 너무 예쁘죠? 이렇게 통유리의 전시장인데요. 저도 첫날부터 함께 했는데 이 무대 공간도 진짜 실제랑 같다고 생각이 됐는데 전시장은 더 생생하네요. 야호호님, 네, 손 들어주셨는데요. 반갑습니다. 이 메타버스 공간이 이렇게 생생하다니 참 놀랍네요. 네, 그럼 저와 함께 하나씩 살펴보겠습니다. 네, 이곳은 왼쪽에 보이시죠? 인터내셔널 오거니제이션 갤러리입니다. 국제기구관이고요. 네, 전시장 하나씩 둘러보겠습니다. 네, 앞쪽으로 저 따라와 주시죠. 네, 앞쪽으로 따라와 주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 인터내셔널 오거니제이션 갤러리라고 보이죠? 이동하셔서 앞쪽으로 이동을 하시면 네, 바로 만날 수 있는 곳이 월드뱅크입니다. 네, 월드뱅크 한번 볼까요? 네, 아직까지 입구 쪽에 계신 분들이 있는데 제 목소리 들리시죠? 저 따라서 이동하시면 되겠습니다. 이곳은 월드뱅크입니다. 영어로 적혀 있네요. World Bank works in every major area of development. 이 개발에 관한 모든 주요 분야에서 일을 하는 곳이고요. 파이낸셜적인 거, 기술적인 지원을 하고 있다라는 내용이 적혀 있고요. 2017년에 케리스와 MOU를 체결을 해서 Education Innovation 심포지엄을 개최를 했다. 이런 내용이 적혀 있습니다. 자세한 내용은 좀 가까이 와서 보시면 잘 확인하실 수 있고 바로 옆에 보면 영상 보이시죠? 개발 협력과 함께한 이런 영상인데 영상 역시 가까이 오시면 소리가 플레이가 되니까요. 네, 앞쪽으로 오셔서 한번 영상도 보시고요. 네, 오른쪽으로 쭉 보시면 네, 또 뉴스 기사인가요? 네, 기사 내용도 지금 글씨가 굉장히 작은데 더 가까이 가서 보시면 크게 보실 수 있습니다. 우리가 실제로 지금 전시장 투어하는 거랑 같다라고 생각하시면 돼요. 네, 그렇게 가까이 가서 보시면 글씨도 잘 보이시고요. 네, 또 오른쪽에 보시면 네, 한국 이노베이션 위크에서 활동한 사진들 또 감상하실 수 있습니다. 총 6개의 사진이 전시가 돼 있고 네, 오른쪽으로 오시면 이제 월드뱅크에 이어서 이곳은 유니세프입니다. 네, 음악이 플레이가 되고 있네요. 저희가 가까이 와서 그런가 봐요. 유니세프는 아이들의 웰빙과 권리를 보호하고 개선시키기 위해서 일을 하는 곳이죠. 이제 티모르와 또 협력을 해서 일을 하고 있고요. 그런 아이들, 소년, 소녀들을 위해서 권리를 위해서 다양한 활동들을 하고 있다는 내용이 적혀 있습니다. 역시 네, 영상으로도 확인을 하실 수 있고요. 유니세프는 한쪽으로 네, 돌아서 이동을 하시면 계속해서 이어집니다. 이 활동 내용들, 혹시 그 배경과 어떻게 진행이 되고 있는지 어떻게 우리가 지속성을 가지고 있는지에 대한 내용들 적혀 있는데요. 네, 쭉 코너를 도시면 네, 유니세프 활동 사진들이 있고요. 케리스와 2020년에 MOU를 체결을 했습니다. 그에 관한 내용 역시 여러분들 확인하실 수 있습니다. 네, 앞쪽으로 쭉 네, 지금 많은 분들께서 전시장 관람해주고 계신데요. 계속해서 네, 반갑습니다. 만나볼 곳은 ADB. 곳은 미주개발은행입니다. 미주개발은행은 라틴 아메리카 그리고 캐리비안의 삶을 개선시키기 위해서 일을 하는 곳이고요. 가난과 이 불평등을 줄이기 위해서 여러 지원을 하는 곳이다라는 내용이 적혀 있고요. 그리고 2017년 케리스와 MOU를 체결을 했습니다. ADB 아시아개발은행이에요. 네, 아시아개발은행은 1966년에 개발이 됐고요. 이제 경제적인 성장과 아시아 여러 지역과의 협력을 통해서 발전을 하고 있는 곳입니다. 2021년에 케리스는 eAsia Knowledge Partnership Fund를 이제 책임을 가지고 일을 하고 있다. 이런 내용이 적혀 있네요. 그리고 필리핀의 선생님들을 위한 여러 다양한 활동을 하고 있습니다. 펀드 내용들 이렇게 자세하게 보실 수 있고요. 포스터가 현재 4개가 붙여져 있네요. 네, 오른쪽으로 이동을 하셔서 코너를 돌면 뭔가가 있을까요? 네, 역시 코너를 도시면 ADB 아시아개발은행 내용이 적혀 있습니다. 네, 계속해서 이동을 해볼게요. 저 잘 따라오고 계시죠? 네, 천천히 이동하시면 되겠습니다. 볼 내용들이 참 다양하게 많으니까요. 네, 저 따라서 천천히 이동해 주시면 됩니다. 네, 이곳이 국제기구 갤러리관이고요. 계속해서 만나보실 곳은 유네스코입니다. 유네스코는 United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization의 약자죠. 평생 교육, 모두를 위한 평생 교육을 책임을 가지고 일을 하고 있는 곳이고요. 2021년에 SDG4 Education 2030 카운슬을 케리스와 함께 열었습니다. 내용들 자세하게 확인을 하실 수 있고요. 역시 옆쪽으로 가보시면 프로모션 영상들 만나보실 수 있습니다. 이렇게 메시지 전해주시는 모습도 볼 수 있고 종이님도 함께하고 계시네요. 고맙습니다. 네, 계속해서 영상 2개가 있고요. 유네스코에는 역시 케리스와 함께한 활동 사진들, 심포지엄, 웨비나 관련 활동 사진들도 보실 수 있네요. 2017년에 한 또 활동들까지 이렇게 사진으로 보실 수 있고요. 네, 바로 또 이동하시면 이곳은 IDB, 제가 앞서 잠깐 소개를 드린 미주개발은행입니다. 미주개발은행은 바로 영상부터 시작이 돼요. 네, 좀 가까이 가보시면 소리가 저절로 플레이 됩니다. 실제와 똑같아요. 가까이 가면 크게 들리고 멀리 가면 작게 들리죠. 네, 관련 영상 확인하시면 되고요. 이것은 라틴 아메리카, 캐리비안의 삶을 향상시키기 위해 일을 하는 곳입니다. 가난과 불평등을 줄일 수 있도록 여러 가지 지원을 하는 곳이고요. 2017년 케리스와 MOU를 체결을 했습니다. 네, 쭉 보실게요. 미주개발은행 어디 있죠? 네, 미주개발은행 제 앞쪽에 지금 보이시죠? 네, 이것이 라틴 아메리카와 캐리비안의 삶을 위해서 노력을 하는 곳이고, 네, 오른쪽으로 살짝 가볼까요? 역시 IDB 그룹에 관한 소개 영상 잘 들리시죠? 네, 앞쪽에서 또 많은 분들 가까이 와주셔서 함께하고 계신데요. 네, 쭉 이동을 해보겠습니다. 네, 이렇게 총 6개의 국제기관들 만나보셨습니다. 쭉 저와 함께 보시면서 설명 들으시면서 보시니까 어떠세요? 네, 저 잘 따라오고 계신데요. 이렇게 인터내셔널 오르가나이제이션 갤러리 한번 둘러봤고요. 뭐 천천히 이동하시면서 설명 들으시면서 저와 함께 해주시면 되겠습니다. 그럼 저는 다음 공간으로 이동을 하겠습니다. 잘 따라와 주시죠. 와, 여기는 또 좀 전과는 다른 느낌이네요. 진짜 갤러리에 와 있는 느낌인데, 네, 사실 이렇게 마스크를 벗고 갤러리 가본 지도 참 오래된 것 같아요. 여러분들 저 잘 따라와 주셨고요. 네, 저 보이시죠? 네, 제가 이곳 갤러리 공간 역시 함께 소개를 드리겠습니다. 와, 진짜 갤러리 같아요. 네, 우드 인테리어로 갤러리가 잘 공간이 되어 있고요. 이곳은 글로벌 클래스 익스체인징 갤러리입니다. 과연 어떤 또 갤러리들이 전시가 돼 있는지 저와 함께 이동하시면서 투어 하시겠습니다. 네, 먼저 가볼 곳이 이 디지털 프로미스입니다. 네, 바로 왼쪽으로 보시면 이제 순서가 이어집니다. 디지털 프로미스는 2008년에 설립을 했고요. 이 교육적인 비정부 기구입니다. 미국에 있고요. 이 교육의 기회를 제공하기 위해서 노력을 하는 기관입니다. 여러분들 뒤쪽으로 돌아주세요. 디지털 프로미스입니다. 미래 교육을 위해서 또 2017년 케리스와 MOU를 체결을 했고요. 역시 이런 영상과 또 관련 기사 내용들 프로젝트 갤러리 보실 수 있고, 네, 디지털 프로미스에 관한 프로모션 영상들 확인하실 수 있습니다. 코너 쪽으로 이제 이동을 하시면 저희가 다음 전시관으로 이동을 할게요. 쭉 이동을 하시면 계속해서 디지털 프로미스와 관련한 내용들 이어집니다. 역시 이렇게 행사를 했던 내용들이고요. 2019년에 한 행사인가 봐요. 네, 이렇게 상담하는 내용들까지 잘 살펴봤습니다. 다음은 모바일 교육 연합입니다. 이곳은 eEducation이라는 곳이고요. 비영리 기구입니다. 기술적인 교육에 있어서 기술적인 부분을 지속적으로 제공하는 역할을 하고 있고요. 교육의 양적인 질을 좀 높이기 위해서 일을 하고 있는 그런 곳입니다. 네, 그래서 저희 영상 먼저 살펴보시면 이나님 반갑습니다. 네, 이 에듀케이션 모바일 교육 연합에 관한 내용들 살펴보실 수 있고요. 이렇게 영상 가까이서 오시면 더 자세하게 크게 들을 수 있다는 점 다시 한번 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 주요 이벤트 또 활동들 이제 보실 수 있습니다. 네, 역시 자세한 내용들 가까이서 오시면 더 자세하게 저희가 실제로 전시관에서 보는 거 똑같다고 생각을 하시면 됩니다. 네, 관련 사진들 있고요. 역시 활동 사진들 쭉 이어지고 있습니다. 좀 넘어가면 네, 이렇게 문이 있는데 넘어가서 한번 보고 저희 밖으로 한번 나가 볼게요. 일단 모바일 교육연합 한번 보고 나갈게요. 네, 역시 오른쪽 보시면 심포지엄 사진 보실 수 있고요. 네, 밖에 한번 저희 나가 볼까요? 몇 분 지금 나가 계신데 이렇게 갤러리 전시관은 실제로 테라스도 준비가 되어 있네요. 저 손 들고 있는 거 보이시죠? 루프 오군님 잘 따라오고 계십니다. 전시관 둘러보시다가 조금 바람 쐬고 싶다 하시면 이렇게 테라스도 준비가 되어 있어서 실제랑 똑같죠? 여기는 벌써 밤이네요. 네, 이렇게 이야기 나눌 수 있고 네, 고개 들어서 한번 하늘도 보시고 별도 보이네요. 네. 조금 쉬어가는 이런 테라스 공간까지 준비가 돼 있습니다. 네. 킴 DW 님도 한번 하늘 보시고 네. 이렇게 아름다운 공간까지 마련이 되어 있습니다. 네, 계속해서 이동하실게요. 실제 전시관이랑 너무 똑같아서 살짝 지금 저는 너무 놀랍네요. 네, 저희가 모바일 교육 연합까지 봤어요. 이곳은 디지털 프로미스와 모바일 교육 연합 이렇게 두 개의 기관 만나보실 수 있고요. 실제 전시장과 똑같은 이 공간 계속해서 여러분들 좀 이어서 보시면 되겠습니다. 네, 기웅님 너무 멋있다 하면서 박수 쳐주시고 계시네요. 고맙습니다. 네, 그럼 다음 공간으로 한번 이동을 해보겠습니다. 여러분 저 따라와 주세요. 와, 여기는 또 어디죠? 들어가 볼게요. 카페네요, 카페. 아, 코로나 이전에는 참 카페도 많이 가고 친구들이랑 수다도 떨고 이랬는데 이게 장기화되면서 이렇게 카페 가는 게 어려워질 줄이야. 근데 이렇게 메타버스 공간에서는 카페에서 또 자유롭게 이동하실 수 있고 또 전시까지 볼 수 있다고 하니까 참 좋은 것 같습니다. 카페는 밖을 보니까 여기는 또 낮이네요. 낮이네요. 네, 저 따라서 이동하시면서 보겠습니다. 혹시 유튜브로 보고 계신 분들 중에서 나도 메타버스 공간 함께 하고 싶다 하시는 분들은 댓글에 저희 링크가 남겨져 있습니다. 사전 신청을 꼭 하시고 입장해 주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 라이브 스테이지 A로 들어오셔야 됩니다. 네, 많은 분들 아직 밖에 계신데 안쪽으로 들어와서 이동을 할게요. 네, 카페처럼 꾸며진 곳이에요. 이곳은 파트너 컨트리즈 갤러리고요. 앞서 저희 강연을 들었죠. 강연을 들었던 세 국가 엘살바도르, 우간다, 부탄의 갤러리 전시가 이어지겠습니다. 네, 역시 박수 너무 멋있다 하면서 박수를 주셨네요. 먼저 딱 들어오셔서 왼쪽 편 보시면 우간다 Ministry of Education이 있습니다. 우간다 교육부에 관한 내용 역시 왼편부터 살펴볼게요. 산업적인 트레이닝 그리고 초, 중등 교육, 체육 교육에 관한 다양한 섹터들의 포커스를 맞춰서 일을 하고 있는 우간다 교육부입니다. 솔라 스쿨에 대해서 좀 소개가 돼 있네요. 솔라 스쿨, 케리스와 함께 국제적인 협력 프로젝트로 세워진 곳이죠. 2016년에 시작을 해서 앞서 강연 내용입니다. ICT 우간다 스쿨이 세워졌습니다. 네, 오른쪽 살짝 보시면 다영님 반갑습니다. 이 케리스 솔라 스쿨 프로젝트 비디오 보실 수 있고요. 오른쪽으로 또 살짝 가시면 영상들이 많네요. 2017년 ICT 역량 개발 프로그램 보실 수 있습니다. 이제 선생님들을 위한 교육인 것 같아요. 함께한 이 교육 영상들 살펴보실 수 있고요. 그리고 바로 옆에 또 세 번째 영상 역시 2017년 ICT 교육 관련 트레이닝 영상입니다. 이 솔라스쿨 프로젝트 우간다에서 한 영상들 만나보실 수 있습니다. 영상 역시 가까이서 오시면 더 크게 들릴 수 있습니다. 글씨도 더 크게 볼 수 있고요. 네, 이렇게 우간다 영상과 그 갤러리 전시가 만나보셨고요. 다음으로 저 보이시죠? 부탄입니다. 부탄 에듀케이션 미니스트리. 바로 뒤쪽으로 보시면 돼요. 네, 이동하지 않으시고 바로 고개만 돌리시면 부탄 교육부가 있습니다. 이곳은 교육의 지속성을 높이고 또 교육의 그 적절성을 향상시키기 위해서 노력하는 곳입니다. 부탄은 2019년 케리스와 협력을 이어오고 있고요. 네, 올해는 또 부탄이스 디지털 텍스트북 또 policy advice 프로젝트를 함께 진행을 하고 있다라는 이런 내용이 적혀 있네요. 부탄은 오른쪽부터 왼쪽으로 이동하면서 보도록 할게요. 네, 역시 함께한 사진들 있고요. 역시 활동 영상들, 사진들. 이제 여기는 사진만 있네요. 네, 부탄에는 함께한 사진들까지 이렇게 만나보실 수 있습니다. 그리고 커피를 마시시는 분들도 계시고 안쪽으로 다시 들어와 주시면 이곳이 엘살바도르 에듀케이션 미니스트리입니다. 엘살바도르 교육부고요. 여기에는 역시 교육적인 프로그램, 특히 성정책과 또 고등교육 관련, 또 테크니컬한 미디어 관련 교육들을 중점적으로 하고 있다라는 내용이 적혀 있습니다. 네, 관련 내용들과 역시 사진들 만나보실 수 있고요. 엘살바도르과는 앞쪽과 또 오른쪽까지 이어집니다. 네, 다영님 앉아 계시네요. 네, 오른쪽 보시면 역시 인턴 워크십 한 사진들 만나보실 수 있습니다. 네, 이렇게 카페 같은 공간에서 국제기관들의 이런 갤러리를 보니까 너무 좋네요. 네, 무엇보다 마스크를 착용하지 않고 이렇게 많은 분들과 함께 투어를 할 수 있다는 게 참 감격스럽습니다. 네, 계속해서 뒤쪽으로 이동하시겠습니다. 저희 방금 함께 하신 곳은 파트너 컨트리스 갤러리였고요. 이 공간은 저희 투어 이후에도 계속해서 둘러보실 수 있으니까요. 쭉 함께 해주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 여러분 다음은 저희 모두 함께 참여해서 여러분들한테 선물 드리는 순서니까요. 저와 다 함께 이동하시겠습니다. 와, 여기는 확 펼쳐진 탁 트인 공간이네요. 잔디 한번 밟아보시고 여기는 미로 공간입니다. 여기서 여러분들 게임 함께 할 텐데요. 무려 갤럭시 버즈 무선 이어폰을 걸고 미로 탈출 게임을 함께 진행해 보겠습니다. 네, 한번 쭉 보시고 이제 미로예요. 미로를 가장 먼저 탈출하시는 분들 중에 1등에게 갤럭시 버즈 드리고 1등을 못했다고 하더라도 선물 준비되어 있으니까요. 여러분들 끝까지 완주해 주시면 되겠습니다. 그럼 출발선으로 모여주시죠. 네, 출발선으로 이동하시겠습니다. 빨간색 바닥에 화살표 보이시죠? 그 입구를 들어가서 쭉 미로를 통과해서 밖으로 나오셔야 됩니다. 네, 저 따라서 제가 손 들고 있습니다. 저 따라서 입구로 이동해 주세요. 출발선으로. 네, 손 들고 있죠? 출발선에 함께 공정하게 함께 출발을 하겠습니다. 미로 탈출 게임이고요. 1등 하신 분께는 갤럭시 버즈 무선 이어폰 드리겠습니다. 네, 다 오셨나요? 아직까지 계신 분들 있으신데 와주세요. 네, 헬로님 박수 치면서 함께 주고 계시고요. 네, 그럼 네, 조금 저희가 다 이 출발선으로 올 때까지 잠시만 기다려 주시기 바라겠습니다. 이동하지 마시고 네, 출발선도 조금 더 앞에서 기다리면 더 빨리 출발할 수 있지 않을까요? 네. 아직 뒤쪽에 서 계신 분들 앞쪽으로 와주시고 이게 탁 트인 잔디 공간입니다. 하늘도 한번 보시고 저희 또 실제와는 달리 별도 많고 참 예쁜 공간인데 네. 다들 하늘을 보시고 네. 이제 더 많이 와주셨네요. 아직 출발 아니에요. 들어가신 분들 계신데? 제가 시작하고 출발을 하셔야지 인정을 합니다. 네, 1등 하신 분은 갤럭시 무선 이어폰 받으실 수 있고 1등을 안 하셔도 저희가 선물 다 드리니까요. 네, 끝까지 함께 해주시기 바랍니다. 네, 쭉 이제 출발선으로 와주시면 되겠습니다. 아까 봤는데 미로가 조금 복잡해요. 잘 찾아서 이동을 해주시면 되겠습니다. 근데 참 너무 실제 공간 같아서 너무 멋지네요. 네, 지금 지윤님이신가요? 저희 쪽으로 걸어와 주고 계시네요. 네, 혹시 인터넷 연결로 인해서 계신 곳의 환경으로 인해서 잠깐 중단이 됐다 하시면 당황하지 마시고 유튜브를 통해 함께 해주셔도 되고요. 그래도 나는 게임 꼭 하고 싶다, 참가하고 싶다 하시면 다시 메타버스 공간 그 라이브 스테이지 A로 오셔서 네, 이곳으로 오셔서 함께 해주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 헬로우님 뒤쪽으로 가시면 안 되고요. 네, 제가 있는 쪽으로 네, 출발선으로 와주시면 됩니다. 네, 많은 분들께서 출발선상으로 모여주셨는데요. 네, 그럼 저희 시작해 보겠습니다. 미로 탈출 게임 시작합니다. 출발! 와, 엄청 빨리 이동을 하시네요. 근데 순간 이동하시면 안 됩니다. 우클릭을 하시면 안 돼요. 순간 이동하시는 분들은 저희가 쳐주지 않을 거예요. 네, 나이키 2750님도 빨리 앞으로 가주세요. 이동하세요. 와, 지금 한 분 엄청 빨리 가고 있어요. 미로를 탈출을 해주셔야 돼요. 헷갈리게 돼 있네요, 진짜. 그 예전에 이상한 나라의 앨리스 그 미로도 생각이 나고 지금 막다른 길에 거기가 아니에요. 분명 탈출구가 있습니다. 이어진 탈출구가. 네, 아직까지 탈출하신 분 없으니까요. 보다 마음의 여유를 가지시고 천천히 앞으로 가주시면 되겠습니다. 몇 분께서 지금 길을 찾으신 것 같아요. 축하드립니다. 여기 맞나요? 축하드립니다. 가장 1등으로 나오신 분이 루프 오근님 축하합니다. 구호님 앞서 도슨트토에도 가장 먼저 저를 따라와 주셨는데 이렇게 미로 탈출 역시 1등으로 네, 탈출을 해주셨는데요. 축하합니다. 네, 저희가 갤럭시 버즈 무선 이어폰 선물로 드리겠습니다. 여러분 박수 한번 주시죠. 박수 기능 아시죠? 박수 한번 주시죠. 네, 아직 탈출을 못하신 분들도 천천히 탈출을 해주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 축하합니다. 네, 1등 외에도 저희가 선물 다 드리니까요. 끝까지 완주하신 분들께 선물 드리니까 출입구 찾아서 탈출해 주시면 되겠습니다. 네, 루프 구호님 다시 한번 축하드립니다. 지금 한 몇 분 정도 남았는지 볼 수 있을까요? 네, 걸어오고 계시고요. 제가 이렇게 위쪽에서 볼 수 있는 기능이 있는데 미로가 진짜 복잡하게 돼 있어요. 멍멍이 님도 탈출하셨고 기웅 님도 탈출하셨고 김은집 님도 네, 고생하셨습니다. 다영 님도 고생하셨어요. 저희 그 1등 하신 분과 잠깐 인터뷰 할 수 있을까요? 루프님 계신가요? 루프님 어디 계시죠? 1등 하신 루프님, 루프고님, 만독조 조사를 보고 계신데, 루프고님, 제 목소리 잘 들리시는가요?
네, 잘 들립니다.
축하드립니다.
네, 감사합니다.
네, 뭐 소감 한 말씀 부탁드릴게요.
그냥 앞으로만 달렸는데 갑자기 1등을 하네요. 네, 감사합니다.
앞으로만 갔는데 출구가 나왔다. 기웅님께서도 옆에서 축하해 주시고요. 네, 축하드립니다. 저희가 갤럭시 버즈 무선 이어폰 전달 드릴게요. 네, 저와 함께 이제 도슨트 투어 쭉 계속 하셨잖아요. 메타버스 공간에서 어떠셨나요? 네, 오늘 투어 하신 거 어떠셨어요? 갤러리 투어.
되게 실제와 같은 느낌이었고요.
네.
그 오프라인 행사가 코로나 때문에 이제 다 취소된 상황인데 그 실제와 같은 느낌을 가질 수 있어서 상당히 좋았습니다.
맞아요. 정말 실제와 같이 사실 조금 다르지 않을까 걱정을 했었는데 진짜 실제와 똑같이 구현이 잘 돼 있고요. 이런 공간들 저희 뭐 집에서도 우리 아이들도 함께 할 수 있는 이런 공간이 될 것 같습니다. 네, 헬로우님도 박수로 축하해 주고 계신데요. 고맙습니다. 네, 저희 어느 정도 이제 다 탈출을 잘 하신 것 같습니다. 저희가 함께 해주신 분들께는 선물 따로 전달을 드리고요. 저희와 함께한 이 도스트 투어 어떠셨나요? 오늘 이번 행사는 26일 내일까지 개최되고 있으니까요. 아직 참여하지 못하신 분들은 홈페이지를 통해서 내용을 참고하시고 또 다양한 프로그램 내일까지 많은 분들 함께해 주시면 너무 좋을 것 같습니다. 또 궁금한 점 있으신 분들은 댓글로 유튜브 댓글로 남겨주시면 저희가 친절히 답변 드리겠습니다. 여러분 내일 뵙겠습니다. 네, 저희가 공식 행사는 여기서 마치고요. 이제 이동을 하셔서 갤러리 한 번 더 천천히 둘러보시면 되겠습니다.